Call meeting to order. For those who care to, please rise for an opening prayer and a salute to our flag. Look, bow your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for staying. Thank you for time we get spent together. Thank you for blessing the city, the members who decided to serve, the citizens of this community. Bless us and lead us in the decisions that you want us to make. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A couple of notes before we get to mayor's appointments, announcements, and vote. Correction to the agenda. The capital improvements meeting is listed for June 18th. It should be June 19th, so make sure that is changed on the agenda, and we'll get to that here in a few minutes, but I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Second particular announcement, Mr. Derrickson had a birthday, June 6th. Happy birthday, Mr. Derrickson, sir. He told me his birthday, and I said, wow, and that was the end of that conversation. So, happy birthday, Mr. Derrickson.
Thank you.
And also, reappointment of Kevin Corner, Housing Authority for a 5-year term. Would like to motion to reappoint Mr. Corner.
Motion to reappoint.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Additionally, I'd like to reappoint Alice Womack to the Housing Authority for a 2-year term.
Motion to reappoint.
Second.
I have a motion to reappoint and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Thank you. No public hearings. I'd like to open it up now to citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step forward, state your name, and sign in. I'm Miss Cindy Moore from 8489 Farmer 160 in Republic. Would like to speak. Thank you for filling out the documentation there, Miss Moore. Certainly appreciate that. And give us your best 3 minutes, ma'am, and tell us what's on your mind.
Okay, I would like to know how come the speed limit on 160 between MM and 97 is still set at 30 miles per hour. The rest of the road, 160 is 45, and the road on the north side that even goes in front of McLean's Industries is at least set at 40. So if we could get that changed, that would be awesome.
To your point, Ms. Moore, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Mr. Brock was in checking on those speed limits. When we did the original construction, it was dropped down to 30, and if we haven't got those signs changed, shame on us. Allow us to get that
Well,
fixed.
don't worry, I don't abide by it. And
Okay, the cheat, don't cheat.
Put the gun down.
Huh? Okay, come on out and get me. I also would like to
Yes,
see
ma'am, please.
if we could put a sign at the end of 160 saying, no semi-trucks.
What?
I had one come up Saturday. The man came all the way down to my house, and I live at the end of 160 and 87. It's as far as he can go before it tees. He came down, he turned around, backed up. My road, if you guys ever go through there, it's halfway down a hill. It's very, very dangerous. He pulled up, backed up, and then pulled back around, and I said, why did you do that? And he said, well, I thought that was the road to the manufacturing place or to the place. And I said, well, no. And he goes, well, I know, and there wasn't any place to turn around. First of all, he was 180 years old and shouldn't be driving a truck in the first place, smoking a cigarette. So, we have trouble with semis all the time. And it's not just from that direction, it is from all directions. I plan on also going to Greene County and asking them if they can put some signs up on 164 and then down again on the other side. They're coming in from all directions at me. And I know it's the GPSs. I went over to McLean's today. My mailbox got run over. I'm not sure who did that Friday night. And so I went over to talk to them about things we could do to make it better. They gave me a phone number that I could call for the main guy in Texas and talk to him. I'd say we could put some signs up there when they're leaving their parking lot saying, do not go this way. Here's the roads for you to take to get out of here. Don't go that direction. I think McLean should be, putting a sign at the end of 160 saying, our road is the next one down, fool, don't take this one. If you can't turn on it, don't turn on it.
I'm not sure we can get all that on a MoDOT sign, but we'll sure give it our best
Well,
shot.
well, that's what I'm saying, I'm gonna talk to everybody. It's not just you, I expect
I'm
you
okay.
to take care of Republic's part.
We will.
And that would be changing my speed limit and putting a sign saying no semi-trucks.
And while you're here, Ms. Moore, Mr. Brock, what'd you find out, sir?
Machine is slow to start, Mayor.
She makes a good point too, Mr. Brock, and we also look at maybe, no semis down Farmer 160, a sign right there, that way the trucks coming down think that McLean, because they're loading docks and unloading docks are on the backside, they think they can go down
Yes.
that way. Is it possible to go ahead and see what would it cost to do that, go ahead and get that done?
We will investigate that.
All right, thank you.
And that would be awesome.
We'll get back with you. We have your, if you would, put your phone number up
Okay.
there so we can get that. I don't have your phone number on the card. Brenda and Mr. Brock will, as soon as he gets some information, we'll get in contact with you.
Okay, I thank you very much. I mean, you know, it's all I ask. I know you guys can only do so much and you only have so much money in the budget, but, you know, you came out there and you annexed the property, now you need to take care of it.
We'll take care of that. We'll take care of that, farm road for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda? Please step forward, state your name, sign in. All right. Very nice. Seeing none, participation. Oh, go ahead, come on up. I'm sorry. Let me take that away.
Down on my list.
After you.
How is the equestrian center going? Because that is also going to be a major, major traffic issue.
I'll let Mr. Christie.
Really, it's just sitting there in limbo right now.
Okay.
The project plans have all been approved from the city's perspective. Right now, it's back into the developer's
Okay.
lap to
Because
put all the
with the
financing together.
GPSs, I mean, it's going to be sending
Yeah.
people down that road, down our road with, you know, with their trailers and all this other stuff and campers and everything else that they're dragging over there, coming in from, you know, from 44, not realizing that they can go on down one more road and they're right there. So it's going to be a major mess with the GPS the way it is now, and people not smart enough to look at a map and figure out what are the main roads and which aren't.
Yes, ma'am.
If,
Well,
if
go ahead.
that goes through, there certainly would be a whole host of road improvements, the entrance ramps off of James River, road work to widen 97, you know, all of the 160, you know, whatever the roads are in that particular area. The one that, I can't remember if that's 97, that goes all the way back and frontage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes all the way around.
Yeah.
But that doesn't do me any good coming from in-highway. If they come in off of 160, they're going to go down, it's going to tell them to go down in-highway, or they're going to go off of 44 down in-highway, and then they're going to go on 164. They're going to have to take a sharp turn to the left, and then it's going to send them a sharp turn to the right, and that goes right by my house. And
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna.
that's where the messes are.
Well,
It's
the road
not,
improvements are
it's
gonna.
not from MM down, it's from the other, it's from N
Yes,
down. It's where it's going to be a major, major mess.
Yes, ma'am, we can
And
certainly
that's
address that.
county, and I realize that is Greene County.
Mhm.
But still, you know, things are going to have to be addressed, and I'm hoping that the City of Republic will work with Greene County
We will.
to get signs put up and things taken care of.
Yeah, Mr. Brock does a good job. They have a good, road, department over there at the county. And Mr. Brock raised his finger at me, so, and he wants to say, go ahead, Mr. Brock.
The speed limit should be 45, I think it was just an oversight.
Okay.
If your prayer had been just a little bit longer, I could have.
Mr. Brock, I think
Time go.
you've just volunteered to write that next week for, next meeting.
Well, thank you, I'm sorry,
Thank
but
you, no, it's fine. I'm glad you had more to say.
Oh, I always have more to say, ask my
That's-
husband.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda? Please step forward, state your name, sign in, give us your best 3 minutes. Okay, citizen participation closed. Moving on, need a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. On the financial report, welcome Ms. Guy Rice. Please give us an overview, ma'am.
Good evening. What you have in front of you, it's, of course, you have the cash balances at the end of May, and you will see that there has been a slight decrease, but the probably primarily due to a large debt service payment that we make every May. And this year it happened to be a little over $500,000, which affected all the funds. So there will have been some decrease there. And so the general fund, utility fund, slightly expenses over revenues year to date. But as you know, expenditures are incurred every month throughout the year, while our revenues can come in more sporadically, and so they don't always match our expense outflow. And usually for the general fund, it's kind of a catch-up at the end of the year when we see more of our revenue come in.
Fair enough. Questions, comments, discussion? Ms. Guy Rice. Anything at all? Seeing none, need a motion to approve financial report?
Motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Krischke, anything, sir?
Really the one quick thing, since David provided the pictures, we're working at the wastewater treatment plant to replace the old screw pumps, and these are worth a lot of money. I can't remember, maybe David does, the weight when these went into the plant. Yeah. So sometimes when council approves, big dollar amount and they go for financing or whatever on some of these larger projects, you always wonder, do we really need to do it at this time? Could it have waited or whatever? This is one of these cases where this was a really timely replacement, and this is the reason why at any particular point in time these could have failed and we could have been in deep trouble. So timing was right, and the evidence is clear in the picture. So.
And just for a clarification point, that was a very large, can we pass those down? Very large.
Oh, do I have the
expenditure.
only pictures?
I think you do.
Oh, there you go. Sorry.
As Mr. Krischke mentioned, that went in at 20,000 pounds. Over time, when they brought it out, it had rusted 5,000 pounds worth out. Now, once you think about that, that's almost 2 cars. 2 full cars rusted off that thing. 1983, so we're talking about 30 years. So it was time, and some of the things, we didn't take too many pictures of it coming out or anything like that, but those things are large, and that's what you guys purchased, was to replace that, and there's a good timing on that. So very interesting pictures, so take a look at those. What was that, quarter-inch, did you say quarter-inch steel, 1983?
It's paper thin today.
Paper thin today. It's a lot of use out of that.
They're hard on the equipment, aren't they?
Yes. Here, oh yeah. Yeah, Ward 4 was the main culprit of that, was it not, Mr. Braun?
It's all the growth that we've incurred, but you're welcome.
Oh, it's growth.
Stop it.
No, let those pictures go around, it's amazing, it really is. I'm gonna move on to future committee events. Chair's not here, is he? King?
He is not here.
That's okay. Future committee events, June.
That's okay, I didn't
Mr. Derrickson, do you have anything?
No, no.
Glad you clarified that, Mr.
Yeah.
Derrickson. Would you like to read the future committee?
No, no.
Oh, we're gonna learn. No, that's okay. I got them wrong.
Okay.
Future community events, June 14th, 21st, and 28th, toddler story time, 10:30 a.m. Free event, no registration required. That is at the Republic Community Center. June 28th, also the City Republic 17th Annual Have a Blast Patriotic Celebration, 6 p.m. To 10:30, J.R. Martin Park. I think the fireworks should start around 9:35, 9:40, maybe even up to 9:50. And the Republic Community Band will be playing some patriotic music there, along with another band. I forgot the name of it, but kicking off about, I think 7:30, what's that?
Mark Chapman.
Mark Chapman Band, that's right. July 26th, Republic Night at the Springfield Cardinals, 7 p.m. at Hammons Field. Those tickets are available at the community center. Board committee and commission reports, Board of Adjustment June 11th, and capital improvements, as we mentioned, June 19th, as opposed to what's June 18th on your schedule there. It's actually June 19th. City Council, June 24th and July 8th. Planning and zoning is June 17th. Old business, there we do not have any old business, as new business, do not have any new business as well. On to other business. Resolution number 13-R-34, resolution of the City Council of Republic, Missouri authorizing the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus and rapid intervention pack. Need a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion and second. Welcome, Chief Compton. Please give us an overview, sir.
This is a budgeted item in 2013 that we'd had. We had applied for a grant that was a regional grant with the Springfield Fire Department, and were recently turned down for that. Timing is kind of everything with this purchase, because as of the 14th of this month, was notified Friday that the price of these breathing apparatuses would go up by $400 a piece due to new federal regulations. And those regulations have to deal with the melting point of the face mask and the electronics at which the low pressure air alarm goes off. So when Mayor, you and Mr. Costergron were in the flashover chamber, if we got it hot enough, your face mask would have melted your face. That would have been a good thing for us, but.
Especially if we'd have gotten out.
We use Scott brand of breathing apparatus. We also have another brand that we're using called Draeger, which is a German company. We're trying to phase them out. We've had a lot of problems with their air packs. Most every fire department in Greene County uses Scott brand. We had tried to purchase these through the International Fire Chiefs Association through a group purchase organization, and were informed due to the licensing that Scott has for their vendors, the only place that we could purchase these in Southwest Missouri was through FireMaster in Springfield, Missouri. So their bid for 5 breathing apparatus and 1 rapid intervention team pack was $30,704. And the rapid intervention team pack, if we have a firefighter that becomes trapped or down, it is another cylinder with a little over an hour's times of air in it that we can go in and hook up to their particular cylinder to give us time to get them out versus them running out of air and suffocating. So, any questions?
Questions, comments, discussion for Chief Compton?
These are $30,000 for 5?
Yeah, $5,900 a piece.
So the new ones, will they have, you say the ones we're buying do not meet the new federal standards?
It all has to do with the low pressure alarm is the electronics they change. These have a 45-minute cylinder, and the alarm all the ones we currently have, alarm will go off when there's 3,000 or about 3,500 pounds left in the bottle. So you have 3 to 5 minutes left to exit the structure. Now they're going to change that where the low pressure alarm goes off when you have about 10 to 15 minutes. They really changed it up. But before that alarm goes off in your face mask, you can tell how much air is in that bottle. So there's a digital readout of a series of lights. So when it gets to the yellow, you need to start moving towards the exit. If it gets to the red, you still got a few minutes left. And then in addition to that, there's also a whistle or an alarm that goes off, an audio alarm that goes off. And then the other thing they changed is the clear lens that you look through. They have raised that to a higher temperature. I don't see this being an issue for us because I'll be real frank with you. If you get to the point that lens is melted, you're in too deep, and your training has failed you. We've never had a problem with a lens melting. I don't know of anybody around here that has.
My question, I guess I was just thinking for $400 on a
That's
purchase.
$400 per pack.
Right, I mean, we're talking 30 grand, so 5 times 400 is $2,000. Would you be better off buying the newer ones? Would they be safer, is all? That was my only.
Don't really see it there.
Well, go with what you have to say.
It's whatever you guys want to do, though.
Yeah.
What's the replacement time on this?
We get 15 years out of these.
Is there any?
And it's gonna change, these requirements on these change on a 3-year cycle, so it'll change again in 2016.
Is there any use for the old ones? Can we exchange those or sell them to another fire department or anything?
Because of how the National Fire Protection Association standards change, and they keep upgrading these, and as our older ones are no longer, there's probably a market for them, but not inside the United States. There's a market for everything, we just have to find where it is, so.
Now, you bought bottles last year, right?
We didn't buy anything last year. 2010, we bought 6 breathing apparatus off of Grant, Scott's as well. But we didn't buy anything last year.
How many does it leave us with the other kind?
About 24 that will change out.
Actually, overtime, so this is
Overtime,
6.
yeah. So we wanted, we were lucky enough to get a grant right as I came here in 2003. It was probably September or, I came here in August. I think the grant come in June or July. And they purchased quite a few then, and that's what's really the kicker with these is really life expectancy is coming due, and we're gonna get hit with a big chunk all at once, and that's why we're trying to phase these in. And we have older ones that are at the end of their life cycle, so we'll shuffle them out first and keep the rest of them in service until their time is up.
Okay, that's fair enough. Additional questions, comments, discussion for Chief Compton? So I have one question for you. When Katie, Marty, and I were in the smoke chamber, did you give us the old ones that didn't work too well, or did you give us the real ones? Very answer this politely, too.
We give you the ones that are not in compliance with National Park.
Oh.
Oh, Chief, what am I gonna do with you? All right.
Well, that was a controlled environment, and, probably wasn't gonna let the mayor burn up. Marty, though.
And Katie was
Yeah,
in
you don't
there?
wanna let Katie burn. If you don't wanna injure the press, they have a lot of ink, so.
Yeah.
At least you're honest. Any other pertinent questions for Chief
No,
Compton
that's
beyond
about
mine, obviously? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you very much.
Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. On to the next item, resolution number 13-R-35, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Collector, Missouri, authorizing the City Administrator, Finance Director, and Public Works Director to make adjustments from the streets and stormwater budget to fund the Dogwood Avenue stormwater project modifications as directed by City Council. Like a motion?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr.
I guess that's me.
Trischke.
All right, at the last council meeting, the second part or second phase of this project would be to make the adjustments that we would need to make in the 2013 budget to be able to afford the improvements. The improvements, the dollar amount that was set aside or was assigned to this particular project in this option was $150,000. That, of course, is an estimate. We're not going to be absolutely certain of what all of the material costs would be until we actually go out and purchase those materials and bring those individual purchases back to the city council. But that is the estimate, the number that we've used all along. So what we need to do, and the way that breaks down rather, is $100,000 is what we're anticipating for the material purchases, which would be the cash outlay, and then we're assuming that there would be about a $50,000 expense towards our in-house labor and our equipment that we would need to either utilize from in-house or possibly have to go out and rent. So we need to make an adjustment that would at least cover approximately $100,000 for the material costs. The one project that was discussed at the last meeting was the Southland Avenue project. That was a cooperative agreement with Greene County that had to do with the Lakes of Schuler Ridge development. We're in the process of negotiating a new developers agreement in that particular area and with Greene County and with the developer. We had set aside $125,000 in this year's budget for that particular road improvement. All apparent reasons, it looks like it's going to delay until 2014, so that would be an obvious choice. So what we're asking for in this resolution would be to authorize us to go ahead, shift those funds that would have been otherwise reserved for the Southland Avenue project, shift those to this particular project, and then create a line item for the expense actual expenses for the Dogwood project. That's it. Probably went too far on that.
No, that's fine. I want to make sure we get the background. All right, questions, comments, discussion?
I have some questions, but I mean,
Yes,
maybe this isn't, you know, this, I'm just getting in on the tail end of this thing, so. Yeah. But, stop me if I'm asking questions, but I mean, I just wanna understand that what we're doing here is, how much did we spend, or have we spent on the 300,000?
David, give us
That's the ballpark.
Okay, that's what we're, and then last meeting, we decided to spend another 150,000. So we're gonna end up spending round numbers, 450,000 on that one project. Is that what you're saying?
yes.
And I guess my question is, so we spent for a 10-year flood, and now we're at a 2-year flood?
Yep.
And we spent $500,000 by the time this smoke clears on this. And I guess coming in on the tail end, was there a public forum on this? Okay. I guess this is the guy I was asking the mayor, but I mean, he obviously knows, so,
David?
and I guess I don't understand. I had a gentleman call me that I just got over there tonight before the meeting that lives on Rosewood, and he's concerned. Well, he's concerned already. He's a little bit further, I guess it'd be west of Dogwood, and he's more like Redbud and Rosewood, but this isn't going to solve his problem. But I think the people, and I'm no engineer, but it's just basic math to me, that if you constrict a hole and you put more water in it, then it's got to go somewhere, and it's going to come up on the road, and those folks down there on Rosewood are now going to be the ones that are near where the improvements were from Rosewood over to the park, if you're tracking with me. I'm concerned that now these folks are going to get hit with flooded, maybe it's too late to have this discussion, but if we're going to fund it, and it doesn't totally make sense to me, and I thought maybe you could, or somebody could clarify, and it's, the horse is out of the barn on the expenditure, it appears, but, I'm just concerned that a couple of years, we had almost like a 2-year flood just 2 weeks ago.
Actually, that was a 2-year event, wasn't it?
Okay,
Mr. Brown?
and I went down through there, and it looked like it was handling it quite well. But I'm concerned that once this change is made, that we end up spending $500,000, and now we're still going to have water in people's crawl space. Is there a point to my do I have a question? I guess not, other than a concern. And I don't know if you have a response to that, or a suggestion, or do we just pay for this and move on? And then I guess as a follow-up, or what if the folks over on say Redbud, that are getting new road, are not happy with that? And I assume we had public forums on that? Yes.
Go ahead.
The road reconstruction, we do not typically.
You don't typically?
Yes.
Okay. But I just found it interesting that we have these public forums and we make a decision and spend $300,000, and then a group of citizens, which, are good people, I know most of those people, or at least half of them on that road, are able to come forward and change the way that we've spent our money, or, do you see what I'm saying? Okay. I don't know. It just is a concern. I think, I'm gonna probably vote for this year. I don't think we have any choice, and this looks like the best option. We do have a choice? Well, what's that choice?
I might vote for it.
Well, how does that work? It's motion's made, it's passed, it's been voted on, we're, right?
The project has been approved.
Okay.
Council, that's how it works. Project's been approved in council. The next phase of any project is funding. Typically, when we go to the council with a project, it's already funded. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Our homework's already been done. When Mr. Brock brought this one forward to begin with, he had already planned the funding for it. So when he brought the project that's funded, you guys vote on it, the funding and the project go together, it moves forward. On this one, I don't know if this clarifies or answers your question. As this project proceeded, even the engineers, Mr. Brock and Mr. Forrester, didn't perceive that the drawings did not match up what it looked like, and that was major, that was one of the main things.
So that's a fact then?
That was a factor, yes.
Okay.
So, the alternatives are, we had 4 alternatives plus,
Right, I
whatever.
remember that.
Those alternatives were presented to them to say, okay, so this is what you want, and then that was presented in unison to the council of what the citizens wanted. It's up to the council to decide what to do with it. So, as part of that, that's kind of the synopsis. As far as, some of the water, I saw the pictures, that were from that 2-year event, the water on the 2-year event in that concrete basin. The water in a 2-year event was over the concrete side, and that's how much it was flowing. And that was at 6:30, pictures taken at 6:30, went back, I went down there at 7 o'clock, Jim went down there later, and the water was still running. So, that's a 2-year event, so that water's gonna run for a while. So, you're right, it's there to handle a 10-year event currently. But to answer your other question, you're here to vote on the budget amendment to either fund it or not. That's what you guys are.
I missed my chance to have this discussion 2 weeks ago, right?
When you weren't on the council, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Well, you
Well,
could've, but.
if I'd understood, but I've
Yes.
learned a lot in the past 2
Sure.
weeks, but anyway, I couldn't
And
vote, I didn't understand it, and
No, and you're right in how you handle it, in my opinion, but that's just me.
Okay.
It's just me, but, I would probably done the same thing.
I just have concerns, and
Yes, sir.
we go forward from here, and 5-10 years down the road, if this water gets up into people's, crawl space, and, then new bunch of citizens come in, and they're upset because we have, our water from our right-of-way work is now causing flooding in their crawl space, then the council at that time will have to deal with that, so.
And a 2-year event, what we really wasn't looked at too hard was a 2-year event like this actually caused problems upstream too.
Right.
So we've already had a call, I think it was, on the north side of,
Yes.
Bill McIntyre?
Yes.
so we've already had an issue there, so, but that issue would have been there probably anyway, no matter what we have done, but we've already cleaned that out, so. We are where we are. It's either funded or not funded, and if it's not funded, I'm just gonna clarify this too. If it doesn't get funded tonight, the project remains on Mr. Brock's books. The project remains in the queue to be done. But if the funding does not pass tonight, the funding cannot be brought up again for 90 days. That puts you in September, which pushes this project off until next year. If the funding doesn't get, and even if it's brought up in September and passed in September.
You get into that time of year, and we would need to make a decision whether to delay it until the following spring.
And that's what I'm saying, is that, in this particular case, 90 days that's by ordinance. So, if something doesn't pass tonight, then it's gotta wait 90 days. That's just how we operate, that's a ordinance that's on the books already. So I'm just kinda clarifying, want everybody to know what you're deciding on. You're deciding on funding a project. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Follow on that, and there may be another time and place, and I'll just ask for your instructions on this, but if I have concerns about the stormwater further up Rosewood, west, but probably not impacted, how do I just approach Mr. Brock personally, or, or you, or how do I?
Mr. Christie and Mr. Brock.
Okay.
We're in the process of rebuilding that street. We're kind of reorganizing some existing culverts there, so if we have a resident with concerns,
Right.
yes, we'd like to.
Bring it to your guys.
Either one.
Yes.
Okay, remember where Sharon Lake used to live? Right there. That's where it is.
Right on that corner.
Well, it's just up west of, on the south side of Rosewood. I think that used to be her house, and it looks like a culvert that runs through what's that person's yard now. I don't know if it's a right-of-way or not. Anyway, I'll get with
Yeah,
you.
either or.
Okay.
Either or, just
Okay.
fine.
Thank you.
That'd be fine.
Thanks.
Additional questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Wilson, go ahead.
Well, I'll probably ramble a little bit, but let's start out. The city had not one, not two, but 3 meetings for the citizens of that street. And I think the most that ever showed up was 7. And there was concerns that did the city notify them right, and was it done right? Now, are people expecting the city to send the police out, round them up, and take them to the meetings so they'll know what's going on? I don't think so. Also, think on it a minute. Also, there was talk about being stewards of the tax dollar. I can't see that this is being a steward of the tax dollar when you're spending $152,000 to cover up a $300,000 ditch that you made for the citizens to alleviate their water problem. I don't see that there's anything right about it. And that's my story. Whether it's right or wrong, that's my opinion.
Mr. Hart, go ahead.
And I have to agree with Gary. I see this as throwing good money after bad. I don't see this as, we're going backwards. And we've always been asked as council to be forward thinking. We're not fixing the problem. By covering these ditches up, we're not fixing the problem. It's going back to status quo. We need to be moving forward.
What it's doing.
We need to move forward, and this project is not moving forward, it's moving backwards. Something, I will be the first to admit, something needs to be done over there, but this project here is not it. It needs to be addressed completely different than how we addressed it.
Especially when you say that the metal you're gonna use in 25 or 30 years is gonna rust away, and you're gonna have to dig it up and replace it.
You know, I can understand the safety aspects everybody's bringing up with the ditches, but there's ditches all over town, and I'm sure that the ditches were constructed by standards that you guys go by. This is throwing good money after bad. This is not fixing the problem at all.
Mr. Hutchison, go ahead.
And this may be just a procedural question, but I'm curious, at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, Mr. Wilson was getting ready to say something, and somebody called, and then somebody called for the question, and then he wasn't, and maybe, I don't understand how, I guess this is Robert's Rules of Order. I don't understand, why was he not able to speak?
Because they put the questions.
What they call for the
Yeah, what you
question.
call for the question.
And it was voted on and passed. Council had voted to continue, voted the calling for the question down, then the discussion could have continued.
Continue.
Okay, so you could, okay.
Yeah, if somebody makes a call for the question, you have to vote on having the question and in discussion. If somebody calls for the question now, and you get a second, and I call for a vote for the question, and it goes down 2-4, then the discussion continues.
Okay, all right, because I know he was getting ready to say something 2 weeks ago, and then
Yes,
I'm just now getting to hear this, so.
yeah, procedural issue, but
I
you
understand.
are correct, yeah.
Thank you.
It could have, call for question can fail.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Maybe if I could just clarify some of the figures that we've thrown out here.
Thank you.
300,000 includes resources that we've expended in the basin. So we started at the very upper end on East Rogers Street. North Dogwood has seen some stormwater improvements, new box culvert under Elm, and then our most recent project all the way down Dogwood Avenue across Rosewood into the park. The sum of all of those projects together is 300,000. What we're looking at on this, with this approval on the financing plan, is the segment between Elm and Rosewood. So 2 different yardsticks that we're talking about money-wise.
I understand.
And the other thing here is just to make sure you understand, there are funds that the city's expended that will essentially be undone. That's the open channels. That represents about $46,000. So that's work that the city paid for that would essentially be undone, and then our enclosed piping system installed. So I just want to make sure we have apples and apples that we're
What portion of 300,000 is Dogwood again?
that particular contract was $225 for the actual contract work and about 26, I think, on engineering, and we had about 40,000 in utility relocations.
Just for the
So it's the, yeah, so it's the, by far the bulk of the expense, but,
That just likes 10,000 being 300.
okay.
In round figures, right?
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
One other question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
If it's funded, which is gonna come first, the filling of the ditches or the building of the road?
We will rebuild the road. We've got redbud, dogwood, rosewood, magnolia that we all have to do. We've got to continue that to get our early paving in. The difference on dogwood is we'll put in the black base, the 2 inches of base mix underneath. We won't put the surface course on. So the other roads will complete. Dogwood, we'll leave that surface course off until we finish with the modifications. Then we'll come back and do that in the fall and have a nice, pretty roadway.
Okay.
Additional questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock, Mr. Kirschner, and myself, if you want.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna vote for it. I don't know if that's proper to say, but I'm gonna vote for it because I think at this point where I got into this, I think this is best for the citizens. At this point, I'm not so sure if I'd been on council 6 months ago that I would have voted for it. But I think the situation that we have now, it's best for the citizens to spend the $150 and move on. But I really, it doesn't set real well with me, but.
And to your point, Mr. Hutchinson, we're gonna have, once this project is underway, or whatever's underway, if it goes underway, Mr. Brock, Mr. Forster, Mr. Christie, and myself are gonna sit down with the process and what happened.
Okay.
Due to the fact that maybe Mr. Wilson is right, we had 3 meetings with the citizens and maybe 7 showed up. Maybe our process that we followed, or maybe the drawings, or whatever it may be that we need to look at, may not have been what they should have been. And can we do a better job in the future? We'll have to answer that question. And obviously, we're going to look at all those things.
Okay.
Mr. Brock and Mr. Forster have put hours and hours and hours into this project, and they can be committed for just going above and beyond. I mean, when Mr. Brock has to sit all day and put a presentation together with all the history of this, some of the projects and things for a town hall meeting, I mean, that's stuff that, you know, it takes away from his other work. And I appreciated it because, you know, 4:20, you know, he spent all day working on this thing and fires it off to me at 4:30, and, you know, town hall meeting starts at 6. So he's done a lot of work that day, and giving it to me at 4:30 to tweak, you know, for an hour and a half. You know, they do a lot of work. But on the process itself, we're gonna see if we
Okay.
can't, look at, so this doesn't happen. This
Okay.
type of issue doesn't happen again, because what we wanna do is to bring to council project with its funding to make sure everybody's on the same page. It's much easier that way, much cleaner, and better stewards of the taxpayers' dollar. But to your point though, for the future reference, we're gonna have those meetings and discussions after this kinda gets settled down. And once we get it going. So, Mr. Harder, go ahead, sir.
Well, to your point again, I gotta go back to the future. We're go back to the future, that's a movie, you like it. We're not fixing anything. We're gonna address this again. When the citizens change in that area, they're gonna, the new people move in, they're gonna wanna know, why am I flooding, why is this flooding?
Right.
Well, because years ago, we had a chance to do something, and we didn't.
We did it, and then we.
And now we're going back to status quo, so we're not moving forward. We're staying in the same place. And again, we will address this in another couple of years, because there's gonna be flooding there. It's not going away.
Mr. Casper, go ahead.
Mr. Wilson was actually first.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Well, I just want to say.
Sorry about that.
You said that we spent money north of there to improve the flow, and then we do the dogwood to get the flow on out. But now we're going backwards by covering it up. Yeah, you're gonna constrict it. It's gonna have somewhere, it's gonna go somewhere. Question is, where is it gonna go?
Well, actually, haven't we approved covering it up?
That's all we did. We didn't approve the funding of it.
But
There's no buts there.
well, there might be. I don't understand if we make the citizens believe that we're going to do something, and then us, I don't know how to put it and be nice, then
Throw
we,
it out there.
if we could have the funding, and if we told them that we look for the funding, if we can find the funding, then why don't we do what we promised? If I were living on
I
that
didn't
street,
promise.
I'd have a fit.
I didn't promise.
Mr. Casgrain, go ahead, you have the floor, sir.
I just wanted to address, not fixing the problem and having to readdress it. I would say that Mr. Forrester, Mr. Brock, Mr. Krischke turned over every possible scenario to make this work. I mean, they have done everything they possibly can, to come up with alternative solutions. I mean, we sat there and had a meeting, spitballing just every idea we could think of, short of having canyons on two sides of the street. As far as your point to having 3 meetings, while renderings have been mentioned in those meetings, I'll say 2 things. Nobody's been able to produce renderings that might have been given in that meeting, so they don't exist. And secondly, the renderings that were in the town hall meeting showed a slope on those pictures that was not in any way conducive to what the topography looks like out there. So the renderings of the proposed solution weren't very accurate also. So had they come to the meeting, they weren't seeing pictures of what was going to be done. So it all sounded fine and dandy, and then they get that in their yard. And I don't know if you've stepped down into the trenches in those people's front yards, but if you have, they are literally trenches. They're like World War I trenches that you would, imagine a battle to be taking place out of. They're incredible for somebody's front yard. But Mr. Brock, Mr. Forrester worked really hard to come up with some alternative solutions, and there just aren't any.
After they complain.
Sure, and that's our job as their representatives, mine and Mr. Hutchison's, to try and come up with an alternative solution. That is what we are here for.
Also, why didn't they come to the meetings? Then they would have had at least a general idea. 7 people does not represent a whole neighborhood.
And the solution was what they came up with. And they don't like the solution, they want to go backwards. They want to go back to what it was. And, I mean, that's the solution is in place. We're moving water where we weren't. And we're moving it not in yards, but down these culverts. And and trenches, again, I've got to go back to, this is all done to code. This isn't just, we're going to go through it and we're going to take, bulldozers and just make 10-foot trenches. We're to code.
I've said my piece.
Me too.
Well, Mr. Hardy brought up a good point. Water holds no jurisdictional boundaries, so water will go where water will go. We can discuss it all day long, but water goes where water goes. And, Mr. Forrester's right. On that one side, it actually flows toward Elm and then back to the top of Dogwood and then down. And then the other roads flow back down south toward Rosebud, and or whatever it is, and flow that way. So, you're moving water. How much do you want to move? How much do you want to pay for it? And where do you want it to go? So that's kind of what you.
Is this where you call for the question?
If you want to, you
I'll
want
call
to.
for the question. I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to call for the question. All in favor for calling for the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, now we're at the question point. Do you approve or disapprove resolution number 13-R-35? All in favor of approval of resolution 13-R-35, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you very much. Again, write that, make sure I got the notes. What was that? Very nice, very nice. All right, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.